The exact moment it all broke wasn't when the screen cracked. It was when I realized nobody in that house cared that it had. My name is Michael Grant, and the second my nephew's toy truck slammed full force into my laptop, I didn't just lose a device. I lost the illusion that I still had a family. The sound was sharp, plastic against metal, a dull crunch, then the screen flickered once, and went black. A thin fracture stretched across it like a fault line splitting the earth. 3 years of sleepless nights. Contracts negotiated at 2 a.m. Lines of code written with cold coffee and shaking hands. Investor decks revised until sunrise. All of it lived on that machine. And in one careless smash, it was gone. So what if your project is worth $1 billion? My sister's voice cut through the room, dripping with mockery. Kids don't owe you anything. They can scatter their toys wherever they want. She didn't even raise her voice. She didn't have to. The dismissal was casual, effortless. My parents didn't rush over. They didn't gasp. They didn't even stand. I was still staring at the broken laptop sitting open on the dining table like a body at a crime scene when my father calmly said, "You shouldn't have left it where a child could reach." My mother nodded in agreement. "You know how kids are." My sister smirked. "Don't be dramatic, Mike. You can just buy another one. Buy another one. If only it were that simple." That laptop held the only local build of my prototype. Investors were flying in on Monday to see it. There was no cloud backup. No second copy. I had been careful everywhere else in my life except the one place I thought I didn't need to be careful. Home. With them. I stood up slowly. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. "You know that laptop was my work." My sister shrugged like we were arguing about a spilled drink. "Work is work. Family comes first." That sentence. That was the pivot. I walked into the garage without raising my voice, without slamming a door. I wasn't angry in the explosive way they expected. I was focused, calm in a way that scares people if they're paying attention. I walked to the tool bench and picked up a hammer. It felt heavy in my palm. Solid, certain. Behind me, I heard my mother laugh nervously. "Michael, what are you doing?" I turned toward the house, and I saw it happen. The moment they understood I wasn't about to yell. I was about to change something. I didn't go back inside immediately. I stood at the threshold of the garage, hammer in hand, staring through the glass doors. They were still half laughing, half whispering, like this was just another overreaction from reliable old Michael. My laptop was just collateral damage in their ongoing war for attention. They thought I wouldn't do anything because I never had before. I was the quiet one. The dependable one. The one who paid the family phone bill. The one who took my nephew to soccer practice. The one who fixed Dad's car when it wouldn't start. The one who lent Mom money when she forgot to pay her credit card again. The one who bought my sister groceries when she claimed her government check was late. Again. But that billion-dollar project. That was mine. The one thing I built without them. The one thing I never let them touch. Until today. I stepped inside, walked past them, and without hesitation, I brought the hammer down on the already broken laptop. The sound was volcanic, metal and glass splintering across the dining table. Everyone jumped. "Michael!" My mother screamed. My sister dropped her glass. "Are you crazy?" I didn't flinch. I stood there, gripping the hammer, staring at the wreckage of what used to be my life's work. The room went silent. You could hear breathing. "You think I care about this machine?" I asked, calmly. They blinked at me like I'd switched languages. I pointed at the destroyed laptop. "You think that's what I'm grieving?" No one answered. "I'm grieving the years I wasted thinking this house was safe. Thinking you all were safe." And then I put the hammer down, turned around, and walked out the front door. I didn't just leave the laptop behind. I left the version of myself that tolerated all of it. That night I stayed in a cheap hotel. No laptop, no chargers, no distractions, just 4 beige walls, a scratchy blanket, a notepad, and the kind of heavy silence that settles after betrayal. At first I thought I was mourning the lost work. But I wasn't. I was mourning the old me. The Michael who kept the peace. The Michael who swallowed disrespect because, family. That version of me died on that dining table. The next morning, I didn't waste time. I resigned from the shared family phone plan. Cancelled the streaming services they'd been using under my name. Cut off the auto debit for my sister's rent. It wasn't dramatic. It was administrative. Cleanup. But the real move, that was something I'd built years ago and never told anyone about. Project Raft. A private cloud mirror that synced silently with my development drive whenever I connected to certain networks. A fail-safe I created back when I first started pitching investors and realized how fragile everything could be. I never mentioned it, not even to my co-founder. I walked into a public library that morning, heart pounding in my chest like I was about to break into something. I logged into the system. My hands hovered over the keyboard for a second. Then I accessed Project Raft. And there it was. Every file, every line of code, every revision, even the pitch deck. I leaned back in that plastic chair and exhaled so deeply it felt like my lungs were resetting. I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. They hadn't destroyed my work. They had just destroyed my patience. I opened my inbox. There it was. Calendar invite from Venture Line Capital. Monday meeting confirmed. I stared at it for a second and something clicked. The universe hadn't taken anything from me. It had stripped away what I didn't need right before the spotlight turned on. And now, I was going to walk on that stage alone. Sunday morning, I walked into the investor pitch with nothing but a flash drive and confidence. No family noise in my head. No guilt, no distractions, just me and the thing I'd built with blood and stubbornness. The conference room was filled with tailored suits and controlled silence. I recognized 3 faces from LinkedIn. 2 of them had passed on me 6 months ago. Now they were leaning forward. The moment I started speaking, everything locked into place. The prototype demo ran flawlessly. Not a glitch. The financial projections hit harder than I expected. I walked them through the 10-year roadmap, and I watched their expressions change. Skepticism melted into focus. Focus shifted into something close to respect. Maybe even awe. During the Q&A, one of the senior partners leaned back in his chair, arms folded. "Why'd your last pitch go quiet, Michael? We thought you ghosted us." I met his eyes without blinking. "Family got in the way. I've since made adjustments." He nodded once. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Let's talk numbers." By that afternoon, I had a signed term sheet. $14 million. Seed round secured. No chaos. No interference. No family commentary. I sat in my car afterward for 10 full minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just breathed. Silence feels different when it's finally yours. But I wasn't done. My next move wasn't business. It was personal. I still had keys to my sister's apartment. She never changed the locks. And inside that apartment were a lot of things she conveniently forgot I had paid for. The TV, the couch, the washer and dryer, the refrigerator, kitchen appliances, all of it charged to my card. If I was done funding their lives, I was done completely. She wasn't home when I arrived. A sticky note on the door read, "Be back by 5. Don't lock the bottom." Typical. I walked in and stood in the middle of the living room. That couch, mine. The smart TV, mine. Every appliance in the kitchen, mine. And now that I'd stopped paying her rent, eviction wasn't far behind. I wasn't cruel about it. I was precise. I hired 2 movers the same day. They looked surprised at how organized I was. "Just this list," I told them, handing over an itemized breakdown with receipts attached. Every single item was purchased by me. No shared ownership, no repayments. At 5:07 p.m., she walked in. The living room was stripped clean. Only the rental carpet remained. A single folding chair sat in the middle. A utility bill lay on the floor. Her eyes went wide. "What the hell?" she demanded. I kept my voice steady. "You didn't want to respect my boundaries. Now you get to live inside them." She started arguing, voice rising, but I handed her copies of the receipts. "This isn't revenge," I told her. "This is repossession." She called my mother. She called my father. She called anyone who would answer. My phone exploded with notifications. I didn't pick up. At that exact moment, I was finalizing a co-founder agreement with a new partner. Someone who respected my work. Someone who wasn't family. I clicked send on the signed document. And then my phone buzzed again. A message from Dad. "We need to talk." I didn't respond right away. I let the message sit there glowing on my screen like an alarm I refused to snooze. For years, I had jumped the second they needed something. This time, I took a shower. I cooked a meal. I finished 3 paragraphs of a new pitch deck. Only then did I reply. "What's this about?" His response came instantly. "Your sister's being evicted and your mother is having a breakdown. Fix it." No hello. No accountability. Just orders. I typed back, "They're grown adults. Let them solve grown problems." 10 minutes later, my doorbell rang. It was Dad. His tie was loose. His eyes were swollen like he hadn't slept. He didn't look angry. He looked scared. "Michael," he said quietly, "your mom fainted at work." The hospital says stress. I said nothing. She's not eating, not sleeping. She blames herself for everything. I met his gaze. She should. For once, she should. He sat down on the bench outside my apartment and held his head in his hands. You can't leave us like this. I didn't, I said. You pushed me. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something I never expected. We need you back. For the company. For the family. And that's when I understood. This wasn't about Mom. It was about the business. And he had no idea what I'd just finalized with his biggest competitor. You handed everything to Claire, I said, folding my arms. She trashed it, and now you want me to rebuild it. He hesitated. We didn't know she'd act like this. You didn't know she was a child with a platinum card. He looked away. I'm not your fixer anymore, Dad. That position's been filled. His brow furrowed. What does that mean? I pulled out my phone and showed him the signed agreement. The competitor's logo glared back at him. Bright. Final. Regal Systems. He muttered. You partnered with them. They offered me respect. You offered me cleanup duty. He stood up like someone had just removed his spine. They're our biggest rival. I corrected. You'll be lucky if they leave you shelf space. He looked like he wanted to argue. Or apologize. Or threaten. But he didn't. He just walked down the hallway, got in his car, and drove away. For the first time in my life, my father left a conversation defeated. That night, my sister left voicemails. Crying. Accusing. You destroyed everything, she sobbed. We were family. I listened to the entire message. Then I deleted it, because family doesn't watch you burn and call it warmth. The next morning, Regal Systems released the press announcement. Innovator Michael Grant joins Regal Systems as CTO of new AI division. I didn't share it. I didn't celebrate publicly. I just waited. I knew they'd see it. And they did. By noon, my LinkedIn inbox was overflowing. Old classmates, former bosses, angel investors who once passed on me. Everyone suddenly remembered my name. But the messages that hit hardest came from my family. Mom wrote first. Why didn't you tell me? Then Claire. You humiliated us publicly. Then Dad. Short, sharp. You've made your point. Congratulations. But I wasn't looking for applause. I was looking for peace. That evening, I sat in my new apartment, my space, my rules, drinking tea by the window while the city lights blinked with possibility. I didn't hate them, I just didn't need them anymore. What they handed my sister through favoritism, I earned through rejection. What they mocked as overreacting, I transformed into power. What they thought was weakness was just me getting quiet enough to hear my own voice again. Weeks later, one final email arrived. From the board of my father's company. They were voting him out as CEO. I didn't respond. I read it twice, though. Because sometimes the loudest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success that doesn't wait for permission. That night, I stood by the window looking at the skyline, thinking about everything I had lost. And how little of it I actually missed. My name is Michael Grant. I was never meant to belong in that family. I was meant to outgrow it,